Hi everyone, Heather here with PersephoneReturns.com, and I am back with your weekly forecast for Monday, April 2nd through Sunday, April 8th, 2018. And this week is going to be a little bit of an intense one. We have some really tense aspects between the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Mars going on this week, and that's going to really be the energy that's going to be highlighted throughout most of the week. And then as we come into the weekend, we do have a little bit of a reprieve. We'll still be sort of coming off of that energy. It'll still be quite strong in the skies, but we'll have Venus coming into a nice trine with Saturn, and Saturn is one of the planets that's causing a lot of the challenges and issues this week. And so basically what's going to be happening is right now, as I'm recording this, we have Mercury in retrograde in a really tight, close conjunction with the Sun in Aries. And so this is highlighting a lot of those Mercury retrograde sort of hiccups and issues and all that. And a lot of people, you know, who celebrate Easter might be traveling to see family, and you might end up with delays and little mishaps and miscommunications along the way. So that's just sort of amplifying that energy. It can also make you a little bit more prone to anxiety and nervous tension when you have Mercury conjunct the Sun, and more prone to overthinking things when it's not necessarily appropriate to do so. And it can make you more prone to sort of be impulsive and to jump into things in Aries as well. And but what's going on here also is that we're going to have Mars conjunct Saturn on Monday. And so that's going to be a little bit of a, it's going to cause the impulsive, it's going to force us actually to rein in on the impulsivity a little bit, because when Mars is in a conjunction with Saturn, it's like this tense aspect where you feel like you want to jump into something, you want to move forward, and you just can't quite make it happen. And either it's due to lack of energy, because a lot of times, you know, this conjunction, especially if it's in a certain placement or position aspecting personal planets in your chart, can sap your energy. And so you might feel apathetic, you know, or you might feel just exhausted, and you can't find the energy and muster up what you need in order to take the initiative to follow through with your plans. And this is all about redoing things, right? This is revisiting plans that have been already set in motion. This isn't about starting anything new right now. This is about finishing up and tying up loose ends when it comes to our responsibilities and the things that we've already held ourselves accountable for. And with Mars conjunct Saturn, it requires us to do things the right way. We cannot rush into things. If we try to be impulsive, if we try to move forward with something really hastily, Saturn's going to step in, and it's either going to be our limitations, our burdens based on our responsibilities that'll prevent us from moving forward, or there'll be some other sort of blockage that'll come up. And so that's a lot of the energy that's going on at the beginning of this week, but it'll really be prevalent all next week. We already started to feel it last week as well. So this is not a new energy. This is, you know, a long, I'm not going to say a long-term transit because it's Mars, but it lasts a few days, right? So a few days before, a few days after, I would say a week before, a week after, you start feeling this energy. And so that's what's been going on right now, and it comes exact on Monday. So that's sort of a really frustrating, irritating energy. Luckily on Monday, even though the moon is in Scorpio, it's making some really nice aspects to Mars, Saturn, and Neptune. And so that's going to help lighten the load a little bit, lighten the mood. It's going to help us to use this energy a little bit more productively. And so, you know, but really what this is about this week is taking the necessary steps to lay the solid framework and foundations for what it is that we want to do moving forward. So it's about wrapping up, tying up loose ends, redoing things, going back and revisiting things, and doing something, taking those small steps every single day in order to create the bigger picture for ourselves, what we truly want in life. And so that's a lot of the energy this week. We will also have Mercury in square with Mars exact, but it'll be Mars and Saturn again, you know, because Mercury will come in square Saturn on Thursday. So on Wednesday, we have Mercury square Mars. On Thursday, we have Mercury square Saturn, and this is because Mars and Saturn are still in a conjunction, right? So it's going to be squaring both planets essentially at the same time. And so, you know, with this energy, again, it's highlighting the need to go back and redo something and revisit something. A lot of what you're revisiting might have to do with energy that was initiated or that first took place around that first Mercury square to Mars that occurred on February 28th. So if you think back to that week and what came up for you, especially in terms of arguments, hasty decisions, impulsivity, you know, aggressive language, those types of things. There were a lot of sort of arguments and sort of tense energy that was floating about during that time that could have been difficult for a lot of people. You're going to be revisiting that, but this time it's going to cause you to have to rein it back in and to take your time and to not just say things all willy-nilly. And maybe you have to go back and apologize because you said something wrong or you did something wrong, or, you know, you rushed into something. You have to go back and change, you know, whatever it is that you did, change some aspect of whatever was initiated at that time. But there is an aspect of needing to go back and revisit that energy. Okay, so yeah, that's what's going on the first half of the week. So you'll really be feeling this Monday through Friday, a lot of tension, a lot of friction, a lot of miscommunication, really forcing you to do things the right way, not rush into things, you know, do things slowly, take the slow, methodical, practical steps in order to reach the bigger picture. And you have to really take care of your responsibilities in order to be able to move forward into something new. So wrapping things up, tying up loose ends, all of that's going to be part of it as well. And there can be a lot of tension. People are going to be more prone to passive aggressiveness. They're going to be more prone to arguments and disputes. They're going to be more prone to just feeling really frustrated and agitated this week. And so, you know, it can be a little difficult for some people. Again, this is really, really affecting the cardinal signs the most, which I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. The cardinal signs are getting hit kind of hard this month. So if you have your sun, moon, rising in Aries, Libra, Cancer, or in Capricorn, then this is going to be affecting you more so than it'll be affecting maybe some other people. Or if you have like a lot of personal planets in those areas as well, it can be affecting you more so. And this time it's going to be affecting the middle degrees of those signs. So if you know the degree and the placement of your sun, moon, rising, or your personal planets, that's helpful to kind of know how intense this is going to be for you as well. And so I'm just going to kind of jump right into this because it is Easter and we do have stuff to do. So I'm going to start getting into every aspect by sign and what this is going to sort of the influence that's going to come up for you guys by each sign. And so always listen for your rising sign first, and then your sun sign is secondary. If you do know your rising sign, if you don't, that's okay. The sun sign is still going to give you a lot of really important information, and I do highly suggest that you listen to both. Some people like to listen to their moon sign as well. And if you do have your moon in any of the cardinal signs, I would recommend listening to this, although the interpretation is going to be more internalized than externalized. So it's going to cause a lot of more internal friction and emotional friction, frustration, and apathy if it's aspecting your moon as opposed to your sun and rising sign. And so it's going to be more on an emotional, internal, subjective level. But it could cause issues with the home and family, you know, if that's the case for you as well. So it is worthwhile to listen to all three, but especially your rising sign. And that's going to be probably the most accurate and the most, it's going to give you the most information to listen to that. So and if you do want to book a reading with me and get a more personalized interpretation of what's going on in the skies or what's going on in your birth chart, because I really love doing birth chart readings. I like doing the more psychological stuff where we dig in deep and figure out, you know, your strengths, your weaknesses, it's deep psychological patterns that need to be sort of worked through and released and all those types of things. That's my favorite to do. But I do also do transit readings. I do relocation. I do all sorts of things. So you can just hop onto my website. The link is in the description below. And you can decide, you know, what's best for you if that's something that you feel like doing. And so we're going to get started here. Okay, so for Aries and for Aries rising, this is going to be affecting you a lot more than, you know, a lot of the other planetary placements, just because this is affecting, you know, we have the sun right now conjunct Mercury retrograde in Aries. It's squaring off to Capricorn, which is on your midheaven, which is your 10th house. So a lot of this is having to do with friction and tension in terms of your career, your public reputation, especially at the beginning of the week. And there could be miscommunications or a need to go back and redo things. And so, you know, you might be wanting to push forward with some sort of work project or some sort of work-related project. And I mentioned a lot of this in the video for last week as well because of the full moon energy. So if you want to get a feel for what's going on there, you can go back and listen to that as well, because that'll give you a little bit more of a nuanced interpretation, because the energy started at the full moon, right? That just happened on Saturday. So that full moon energy, that was sort of the initiation into what's going on this week, right? And so for you, you have Mars conjunct Saturn in your 10th house of career. So that's very much either wanting to push forward with an important project and running into blockages from authority figures, from your responsibilities that you have to take on, needing to do things the right way instead of doing it the fast way. There could be miscommunications and difficulties that arise that prevent you from moving forward because you have to sort of go back and redo things. You maybe made some mistakes in the past and you have to go back, re-edit, revise, do all those Mercury retrograde types of things. And so there can be a little bit of tension, especially in the workplace this week. And also it could lead to, again, that could be a lack of energy to move forward with things as well. So it could be, instead of irritation and friction, it could be that you just feel like bored or apathetic, like you just don't have the energy to see through with this project that you were really, really excited about before. And so, the best way to deal with this is to take this day by day, step by step, little by little, and go in and do the little tiny things that you need to do every single day, just small little portions every single day, as much energy as you can muster or as much as you can get done, because it is going to take longer than you want it to, right? And if you do this, especially during this time period, you can work really diligently toward your goals. And in the long term, this is going to benefit you much more so than rushing into something very hastily. And the other thing too is that at the end of this week, you can start to see some sort of results or reward financially for the hard work and the effort that you've been putting in, especially, last week into this week, in terms of your career, your public reputation, and these projects, these new ideas, even maybe a new job that you're trying to get or something like that. You can start to see rewards. You can start to come back into balance. You can start to see that your efforts are not for nothing, right? Because you will have Venus in your second house trining over to that Mars-Saturn conjunction up in Capricorn in your 10th house. And so that indicates some sort of financial or material reward that comes through the diligent hard work that you've been doing. If you've been working diligently toward your goals, your efforts, this is going to, manifest in this way. If you haven't been, then, that's going to be another story. If you rushed into things, you might not see quite as much of a reward from that. So making sure that you're going back, tying up loose ends, doing things the right way. All right, for Taurus and for Taurus rising, you do have some friction and tension in your 9th house, which has to do with pushing forward with new plans for education, travel plans, plans, or actually looking at new belief systems and things like that. There could be friction and tension when it comes to your religious beliefs, your philosophical beliefs. That could even manifest, around Easter Sunday if you're someone who celebrates that, maybe around the dinner table, and some sort of friction and tension around maybe you not believing the same thing that everybody else believes or something like that. There could be arguments and disputes in that area. I would also caution you that, there could be someone secretly sort of working against you, kind of behind the scenes, and that might come out into the open this week, right? Because the Sun conjunct Mercury is that coming out into the open, being able to see what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to hidden enemies and things that have been kept secret. And secrets can come out this week too. And so it's wanting to push forward with, educational pursuits, travel plans, adventures, learning through experience, and not necessarily being able to accomplish all that you want to accomplish right now. So it's requiring, again, that you don't just jump into anything all crazy and all willy-nilly. It could be maybe you wanted to do travel to a foreign country or travel long distance somewhere, and then all of a sudden you realize you have a responsibility that you have to take care of that's going to prevent you from actually moving forward with that. Or it could be a similar circumstance with your education or with, meeting up with a new teacher, or it could just be friction involving your beliefs about, God, the universe, philosophy, all of that. And later this week, though, the tension will lift a little bit. You do have Venus in your sign, which is really nice for you. So that helps to bring you in general back into balance, back into harmony, back into equilibrium. Things just sort of flow a little bit more easily for you. You feel more charismatic, more beautiful, more sensual. When Venus is in your sign, and its home sign of Taurus in general, it's like that, but especially for you. And so you have this really nice Venus trying to Mars and Saturn. Actually, it's Saturn that it's going to come exact on Saturday. So you have this Venus trying to Saturn, which is helping to bring greater stability to your identity, to, your beliefs, bringing, some sort of benefit to these travel plans, to these adventures, to this learning opportunity that you might be trying to pursue. And so things can start to work out for you. You'll start to see the results of the hard work and the effort that you've been putting in, toward the end of this week. You'll start to see that what you've been doing hasn't been just for nothing, right? You're actually creating something in this area for yourself. And so, this could also be about you trying to find your own belief system, your own way, and, running up against tension and friction from authority figures or people in your life that sort of want to block you from doing so. And, if you push forward and just take the little steps day by day to sort of figure things out for yourself, right, you'll start to see the rewards quite quickly. And you will find people that will sort of agree with you or understand you or be more understanding toward the end of the week. All right. For Gemini and for Gemini rising, this Mars-Saturn conjunction is actually happening in your 8th house, which has to do with power struggles. It has to do with debt, finances, other people's money, inheritance, money that you get through marriage. It also has to do with dealing with your deepest psychological fears and anxieties, insecurities. And so when you have Saturn and Mars there, which are the two malefic planets coming into a conjunction, it first off could be that you want to move forward and push forward with something involving other people's money, debts. Maybe you want to get financed for something and it's not quite working for you because you haven't been responsible financially. Or it could be that you want to move forward with some sort of joint financial venture in marriage and it's not quite working because maybe your husband or your wife doesn't necessarily want to do this. So you're running up against blockages, right? There's some sort of dispute in terms of power struggles and joint finances that could occur at this time. It could also be financial issues with friends, especially maybe, you lent them money or you borrow money from them or something along those lines. And now you have to go back and, revisit that and pay the money back or something along those lines as well. So there could be disputes, miscommunications, arguments with friends. And, especially around the beginning into the middle of this week, but you will actually have a little bit of a break and a little bit of a reprieve coming up at the end of the week. Sort of internally, you'll start to come back into balance a little bit more. You'll start to see the results of the efforts that you've been putting in terms of dealing with your deepest fears, your deepest insecurities, all the difficult stuff that's been coming up for you this week, the power struggles, anything that, and it can feel like sort of like when you have this sort of transit in your 8th house like this, it can feel very dark. It can feel like sort of like the dark night of the soul. It's like very, very difficult, very hard to piece together what's going on because a lot of it is internal. So it could just be an internal sense of like having to deal with something, an internal sense that something's wrong, an internal sense of crisis. And you'll start to see that you'll come back into balance later this week, especially if you're addressing it, looking at it, not shying away from it, doing the diligent hard work to dredge things up and to work through it and to release it, right? That's part of the process that goes on in the 8th house. It's one of the deep healing houses. It heals you from the inside out. And so you're going through a deep healing process right now. All throughout the next 2.5 years, you'll be going through a deep healing process with Saturn transiting your 8th house. But with Mars in this conjunction, it's sort of trying to speed it up, right? It's like, I just want this to be over with. I want this lesson to be done. And you can't quite do that right now. So Saturn's saying, no, you have to do it the right way. You cannot rush into things. And so that's part of the process that's going on for you this week. And then for Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancer and for Cancer rising, there could be some tension, some friction, some difficulty going on in your relationships, especially marriage partnerships. This includes all personal relationships, including close friendships, business partnerships, any one-on-one personal relationship. If you work with clients, it could be, the people that you work one-on-one with in that capacity as well. There's some sort of tension and friction coming from your relationships this week. And so, it's wanting to push forward with something and maybe your spouse or your partner or, your friend does not necessarily want to push forward with it. So they're blocking you from moving forward with your plans and your goals, especially as it relates to your work. So this could be, a really close work relationship or something like that, or friction and tension that's preventing you from moving forward with plans because you have a lot of plans and a lot of energy in terms of mental energy right now going on in your 10th house of work and career. So it's like wanting to move forward with something, wanting to create something new for your career, having to go back and redo things in order to be able to move forward and create what you want to create in that area. And there's a blockage, there's tension, there's friction coming from your 7th house. That could also be open enemies, right? The 7th house is the house of open enemies. So it could be somebody who's working against you out in the open that's telling you no. And, so that could come up this week as well. But there could be arguments, fights, disputes, and miscommunications, within partnerships this week. So your relationships might get a little tense, especially at the beginning of the week and into the middle of this week. At the end of this week, you do have this really nice Venus and Taurus in your 11th house coming into a really nice trine with this Mars-Saturn conjunction in your 7th. And so this is actually really nice for repairing these relationships, especially when it comes to friendships, right? So this is going to enhance your friendships and your close personal relationships, and it's going to help you to come back into balance after the tension and friction that occurred earlier on this week. And so, you'll find reprieve in your friendships as opposed to your romantic partnerships and business partnerships and close relationships. So going out with friends and spending time in groups, that's actually going to be a good way to sort of get yourself out of that difficult energy and engage with what's going on positively. You still have to engage with the difficult energy, of course, but everybody needs a little bit of a reprieve sometimes. So that's where you're going to find it, is in your social networks and in your groups of friends. All right, for Leo and for Leo rising, this is occurring in your 6th house of work, right? And of your daily routines, your health habits, all of that. And so, you could be trying to push forward with a new health routine or a new work routine, and it's not quite working for you. This could also indicate tension and friction with coworkers, right? So the people that you surround yourself with in your workspace on a day-to-day basis, or your work environment in general, could come into some sort of difficulty, tension, and friction. Maybe they're remodeling, or you have some sort of issue with your home office or something. And so that could cause some tension and friction where you really want to move forward with something in some sort of important project with your work, but you can't quite do it, right? Because there's this burden, this limitation, this restriction, this blockage that's not letting you move forward. And it could be that you want to do something to sort of reinvigorate your health, to start a new workout routine, a new nutrition routine, and you're not quite able to get there yet, or you're having trouble sticking to the routine. You're trying to do too much all at once. So you have to integrate these new ways of living very slowly instead of all at once, right? And this is going to be a process for 2.5 years for you, with Saturn being in your 6th house, like having to, change up your health routines, change up your work routines and all of that. And it's going to be a long-term process. It doesn't just happen like all at once. But this is really highlighting that, right? Because you really, really want it to. You're like, I need to fix this now. And it's like, no, you have to do it the right way. You have to take your time. And then with this square going on here to your 9th house, part of this is going to be about your beliefs, right? So it could be that your beliefs are inhibiting you from actually moving forward with this. You could have sort of negative, detrimental belief systems involving your work, your health, your daily routines, your ability to do and accomplish what you want to accomplish that need to be sort of revised, right, in order to help you to move forward a little bit more easily. Connecting to beliefs and belief systems and value systems in terms of the greater perspective that are more adaptive, right, instead of maladaptive. So that way, it helps you and enhances your ability to move forward with big projects, big plans, and things that you want to do in life. And at the end of this week, if you are working really hard and really diligently towards some sort of work goal or some sort of financial pursuit in that manner, you will start to see some results when it comes to, your career and your public reputation. So, just stick with it, because you'll start to see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel and what's coming for you. And you could get some sort of benefit, some sort of bonus, some sort of recognition. You'll come back into balance through your overall big picture career goals. So focusing on the big picture can help you in this way, and especially at the end of the week. And you can, partner up with somebody who can help you, accomplish your career goals. That could be part of it as well. But in general, you're going to be coming back into balance in your career and your public reputation and your public life through the hard work that you're putting in terms of your day-to-day efforts this week. For Virgo and Virgo rising. So for you, this is happening in your 5th house, and the 5th house has to do with children, the things that you love to do. It's romance. It's the way that you sort of share your heart with the world. It's your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do. And so you have a Mars-Saturn conjunction going on there. So it could be that you want to engage in a new romance. Romance right now for you is going to be quite difficult, actually. It's going to be a lot of work. You can, find a romance that can come into that can turn into like more of a long-term partnership later on or something like that. But in general, having Saturn transiting your 5th house is not good for romance. It's not good for your love life. It makes it so your love life is more like work and your hobbies become more like work. But the best way that you can utilize this is turning your hobbies into something that's more practical, right? In terms of like the long-term. And the long term of this aspect of Saturn transiting your 5th house, this isn't something that happens all at once. This is something that happens for 2.5 years. But when you have Mars conjunct Saturn, it's like wanting to push forward with some sort of project, some sort of new hobby, new interest, some sort of creative activity. Maybe you want to go out, go dancing, do something romantic, something fun, something spontaneous. Maybe you want to, spend more time with your kids, and you can't quite make that happen because you feel bogged down by responsibility. And so it doesn't quite work that way. It could also indicate financial disputes or financial issues that you have to go back and revise, re-edit, and deal with, especially involving bureaucracy, paperwork, honing in on those details, having to redo something. And in doing that, you're going to free up some energy for yourself in order to be able to do the things that you love to do, but it's not going to come right away, right? So you have to go in and deal with those responsibilities, especially involving joint finances, debt, taxes, other people's money, power struggles, those types of things. There is a really nice trine going on here to Venus in your ninth house at the end of the week. So you'll start to feel more expansive, more hopeful, more optimistic. You'll start to see where all of this is headed, and you'll start to see you'll come back into balance by finding a broader perspective on your situation and on the difficulties that you have encountered throughout this week. For Libra and for Libra rising, this Saturn Mars conjunction is occurring in your fourth house of the home and family. So this could indicate disputes and difficulties in terms of property and in terms of your relationship with your family. And so there could be some tension and some friction there. There could be some difficult communication that you have to involve yourself in when it comes to your love life. First off, your partners, especially your marriage partnership, your spouse. Any long-term romantic partnerships, any close personal relationships, business partnerships, all of these things are subject to miscommunication and dispute this week because there is a little bit of tension and friction there. It could also be that you have to say something and you're holding back from saying it because you feel like you need to do the responsible thing, or you feel apathetic toward it, or you feel like you just can't quite get yourself there. And so, you got to get there little by little, right? So that's going to be part of the process as well. But there could be some tension, some friction, some difficulty where you want to move forward with something involving the home, family, property. Maybe you want to buy some property, but your spouse is like, no, we can't do that yet. Or, you're in contract with someone else about something and it prevents you from moving forward. And so that's a little bit about what's going on this week. You can actually, if you are looking to like buy property or something like that, and you could have some money coming in from an outside source this week with Venus being in your eighth house. And so that could be a potential possibility. You'll come back into balance by, coming back into balance when it comes to power struggles and, becoming empowered and coming back into your own power. And you will start to see some of the benefits from the hard work that you've been putting in toward your home and your family and your property and, building better relationships with your family, dealing with the disputes sort of head on, but not all at once. Maybe you've been remodeling or something like that. And so you'll start to see some of the results of what you've been doing in this area. All right, so for Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this is happening in your third house of communication, of short distance travel, siblings, distant relatives. This is also like your day-to-day communication, your day-to-day, activities, bureaucracy, all of this. And there could be some tension and friction going on here in the third house, which has to do potentially with cars, with short distance travel. Maybe your car is malfunctioning and you have to fix it during the Mercury retrograde, which could be, a little tense. And you might have to redo it later on or something like that. It could also be, disputes in communication, especially in communication with your coworkers and the people that you surround yourself with in your work environment, because that's something that goes on here as well. There could be some really tense, difficult communication that comes up involving your health and your daily routines, especially as it relates to food, nutrition, and the way that you treat your body. You might have to formulate new health routines for yourself or try something new, but you might feel a blockage, like you can't quite get there, or it's not quite right, or you feel a little apathetic, or maybe like there's an internal blockage or something like that. So that could come up as well. But a lot of this is going to involve disputes and miscommunications and difficulty in communication when it comes to your coworkers and people that you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis. You could have some really tense, difficult communication that comes in this week, especially at the start of the week. Or it could just be that you feel like you want to move forward with some sort of project that involves communication, marketing, emails, text messages, phone calls, something like that, where you're trying to communicate with people and it's not working out right. And you're just trying to push forward with it really fast and really hastily. And it's like, it's not going to happen right away. And so you have to rein it back in and take the small steps every single day. And that could involve like writing or something like that too. And you have to take the small steps every single day to get there. And a lot of that could be work related as well. And so, right now you're in a process of revising your work routines. You have to redo things, go back and revisit things when it comes to your work and the way that you do that out in the world, wrapping things up, tying up loose ends so you can move forward with new projects when it comes to, communication, writing, marketing, all these types of things as well. This could also be miscommunications and difficulties with siblings and extended family members, community members, your neighbors, your neighborhood, like all of that could come up for you as well. And the good stuff is coming from your love life and your relationship. So, at the end of this week, your communication and relationships can be enhanced. You can, feel a little bit more in balance in your relationship, a little bit more sensual. You can have a really good experience in your relationship, especially, in your marriage partnership, long-term relationships, all of that. But it could also be work relationships and things like that too, especially close work relationships where, you can come back into balance. You're connecting with the right people and having those communications, and you can can start to see that the hard work and the efforts that you're sort of putting in when it comes to these areas of life are starting to pay off. All right, for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this is happening in your second house and in your fifth house. You have the Mars-Saturn conjunction in your second house. So it could be that you want to move forward with something involving money, finances. You want to make a big purchase, but you can't quite do it yet. There's other responsibilities that you have to take care of first. It could also be wanting to do a new pursuit, a new type of pursuit to create and generate resources for yourself, but you don't have the foundation laid yet. So you have to really work diligently toward those goals in order to make that happen. And the tension and friction is also involving romance. So there could be miscommunications with boyfriends, girlfriends, romantic partners, miscommunications involving your children, tension and friction with your children involving money, finances, and resources. You know, maybe they want some sort of new gadget or toy or something, and you know that you can't get it for them yet, and maybe you feel badly about it, or maybe they cause a ruckus about it or something like that, like kids tend to do sometimes when they see a commercial for a flashy thing. And so, I mean, that could be part of it as well. And there could be disputes and miscommunications with the father of your children too. That could be part of it. The other thing, the thing that where you're going to find like the reprieve and the balance is through your health, your daily routines. Those things are going to start to come back into balance. You're going to start to see that your work and your work situation is starting to become easier, especially your relationships with your coworkers, your day-to-day experience at work. And so you'll start to find that the efforts that you're putting in toward creating money, resources, and all of that are starting to benefit you, and they're benefiting you in terms of your health and your daily routines as well. And so you'll have a benefit, and you'll start to find more stability in your finances through the relationships that you're forming at work and the routines that you're creating for yourself when it comes to your work habits. Okay, and for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this Mars-Saturn conjunction is happening in your first house or conjunct your sun, especially if you have your ascendant or your sun sign at around 8 degrees. So I would say anywhere from like 6 to 10 degrees in the sign of Capricorn would feel this the strongest, and it would be very intense for you, where there's going to be a tension and a friction with wanting to move forward with your own self-interest, with your own passions, with something that's going to benefit you personally. And you're not going to quite be able to get there. There could be miscommunication and difficulty that comes from like the home, the family situation that prevents you from, you know, moving forward with what you need to do. You might have responsibilities for your family or for your home environment that you have to take care of before you can actually move forward. And so you have to wrap things up in that area before you can, you know, take hold of these new plans that you have for yourself. And so it's like everything that you're trying to do this week for Capricorn, it's going to be very, very frustrating, especially at those degrees that we talked about between 6 and 10 degrees. I would even give it maybe a little more wiggle room than that, but especially at that spot, like you're going to really want to do something and everything that you try to do this week is going to be met with resistance, with friction, with frustration. And that's a clue and a cue that you're moving too quickly and that you need to rein it back in and do things the right way and go back and revise, re-edit, tie up loose ends when it comes to your home, your property, your family situation, and your roots before you move forward with these new plans, these new goals, these things that you really feel like you want to do and you need to do out in the world. Even if you feel really impulsive, really hasty, like you need to do it now, it's not quite yet, right? It's not quite ready yet. And you will have a lot of benefits coming through your romantic life, your creativity, your creative self-expression. You can find a creative outlet for this frustration this week. So, you know, engaging in romance, engaging in play, engaging in things that are fun, lighthearted, that you love to do, that's going to be where you're going to find your reprieve. All right, so Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you have a Mars-Saturn conjunction in your 12th house. So the 12th house is the house of endings. It's the house of things that are secrets, that are secretive, that are hidden. It's the house of hidden enemies. And when you have Mars transiting your 12th house, hidden enemies can be working against you behind the scenes. Saturn in the 12th house is trying to get you to let go, to release, to get rid of anything that doesn't serve you, past karma from the past 28 years of your life. So that way you can move forward into Saturn in Aquarius conjunct your ascendant, clear and clean of all the old baggage, because that's going to be a major reset of your personality, your persona, all of your life. All areas of life are affected when you have Saturn conjunct your ascendant. It's bringing you back to your core nature. And so up until this point, you're letting go, you're purging, you're releasing, you're spending more time in solitude, spending more time inward, and you can feel really frustrated with your circumstances right now. You can feel really frustrated about not being able to, you know, pursue things out in the world like you maybe want to do. And so that can feel a little frustrating for you. And there could be something going on behind the scenes that could be difficult for you as well. There could be really difficult communications that come in for you this week. Hidden enemies working behind the scenes and miscommunications, disputes, and fights, that are caused by these people that are sort of working behind the scenes and below the surface. So you're not quite aware of where it's coming from necessarily. That could absolutely be a thing that comes up this week. Where you're going to find the reprieve and like the good energy is going to be in your home and your family environment. So retreating to the family, retreating to your home, retreating to the place that feels comfortable and feels good to you, connecting with the friends that feel like family, your soul family as well, can be very, very beneficial for you at this time. So connecting with family life, connecting with your home environment, that's going to be the best way to navigate and deal with this energy most appropriately. All right. And for Pisces and Pisces rising, there could be some tension, some friction, some difficulty when it comes to your friendships and, your social networks. If you're a part of any organization or any sort of group, there could be tension and friction that comes from that group dynamic or from that area of your life. And there could be money issues for you that come up this week as well, which I've been talking about for you for a little bit just because Mercury's retrograding your second house. So you're thinking a lot about finances right now. And so the 11th house indicates the rewards that we get from the hard work and the effort that we put in the 10th house of career. And so it could be that you want some sort of reward, you want some sort of recognition, and you're not quite getting it yet. And it could be that you want some sort of monetary recognition, and you're not quite getting it yet. There could also be disputes with friends and within your networks involving finances, involving resources, where you have to go back and redo something, repay someone, or they have to repay you. And it could really just be you wanting to move forward with some sort of something with your friendships, right? Wanting to go out and do something active and fun. And, your friends are not quite into it. So especially like work friends and things like that too. So there could be tension and friction there, miscommunications and disputes. And then where you're going to find reprieve, where you're going to find the good energy, is going to be in your third house of communication. So as long as you're open and communicating openly and honestly with your friends about how you feel, if there is that tension, that friction, that difficulty, even like that apathy, like you just don't even care. Maybe they're going through some sort of chaos and you find yourself having trouble showing up to help them or something like that. But as long as you're open and honest and you're having really good communication this week, especially at the end of this week, that's where you're going to find the benefits. So that's where, things will be a little bit lighter, a little bit easier for you. So in terms of communication, relationship with siblings, reaching out to extended family members, doing something within your community, short distance travel. So maybe taking a short trip somewhere to sort of get away from all of it, right? And you can do that with your friends too. If you're, feeling like that, depends on what's going on for you this week. But all of these things are ways that you can sort of balance out the energy and find yourself coming back into balance this week. All right, so that was everyone, Aries through Pisces. And so I hope that you found this helpful. And I will see you again next week for your weekly forecast for next week. And I am working on lining up some interviews and things for after Mercury goes direct. So, I did call this channel Beyond Astrology for a reason, because we're going to be looking at what's going on in the astrology, but tying it into like real life and solutions to, the difficulties and the issues that might be coming up, globally and individually and all that. So we're going to have a lot of different stuff going on. But yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm just waiting for, Mercury to go direct to start pumping these out. So, stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and you can always book a reading with me too. That's a thing. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.